I'm just dying to know because I was watching 2 days worth of this garbage. I don't know how much of it you watched. I know you mentioned some of it on Twitter. Your take from the last 2 nights of the Democrats?
Well, I have both conservatives and liberals telling me today that they're really depressed because this means we're going to have to vote for Trump.
Oh, now, I knew you'd do that to me right out of the gate. So it made Trump look attractive to you.
My interest here, I have 2 interests in the Democrats nominating the sanest, most plausible candidate. The first one is to at least scare Trump into keeping his promises.
Yes.
Now, of course, in the end, I'll vote Republican. My vote isn't going to help a Republican. I voted in the end for McCain and Romney, too. So he does need a lot more than my votes. But somebody plausible enough where Trump will think, oh, my gosh, I'm really getting a run for my money. Really hard to see anyone, other than Biden, I suppose, and he's the one who's being attacked and dissed throughout the media. Old man, not woke enough. Well, yeah, okay, he's also the only one who's even plausibly electable, I think. And my second reason for wanting Democrats not to run someone who's just escaped a mental institution is that the person might win. The incumbents usually win. Trump has a lot of advantages. Number one being he's not any of these people.
Well, that's right.
Even without keeping the promises, he's like a placeholder. I'm not Julian Castro. I will not be asking for, some sort of magical incantation to give abortions to transgenders.
Here's what I think. You tell me if I'm wrong. I think you should send a love note to AOC. And here's why. I think she's made all these yahoos walk the plank to such a reckless regard on the issue at the border and the detention camps and the Holocaust comparisons. She's driven them to such a crazed degree. It makes most Americans sit up and take notice and maybe get a little rattled at their position on just letting people pour in and have all the goodies.
Yes, although, that's where both of the parties were 5 years ago. I think a little bit of the blame and credit goes to Trump, too. He certainly raised it as an issue, and I thought it was great during the campaign. Sometimes you need to bash people over the head. He was the only Republican. He was certainly the only one running for president whom I can recall other than Pat Buchanan who was raising the issue that maybe we should do more for our own people than foreigners streaming across the border. Whoa, the Democrat Party has moved on from that. But I think some of the insightful language he used and just general Trump derangement syndrome has driven Democrats just into the craziest positions. Part of our objective may be just communicating to African Americans that, boy, they're taking a backseat to the Hispanics and illegal aliens now. The first night it's that they all want open borders, and the second night all the Democrats want free health care for illegal aliens. What else can they come up with?
Yeah, there's very little left we can't give away for free. Do you think this detention camp thing was the last straw? I'm serious. Do you think this Holocaust comparison was a bridge? Even for them, did they just push it way too far with that?
They certainly aren't embarrassed. This is not a party that expresses embarrassment. They have the media to try to cover things up. One thing I think the craziest response to AOC's claim that we're running concentration camps on the border, because who can forget Jews traveling from throughout Europe to break into Nazi Germany. It's so mad. But the craziest one very few people know about, so I'm happy to talk about it here because the media covers up when their side says something completely crazy. Chris Cuomo's response was to attack Liz Cheney.
Yes.
Did you see this? Liz Cheney had some tweet attacking AOC, saying, come on, don't compare this to an extermination camp. This is disgusting. And Chris Cuomo thinks, whoa, watch this. Watch this.
Hold my beer, as they say. Yeah.
And his big point on this is we don't use the word extermination for human beings. We use it for pests.
Uh-huh.
So he's attacking Liz Cheney for calling Nazi extermination camps extermination camps. First of all, how can you live your entire life without ever having heard that phrase?
Well, and his brother, by the way, was forced to answer it and jumped in and reprimanded AOC, interestingly. So parted with his brother on that, his governor brother. I don't know if you heard that this week.
Well, I don't know. There used to be more sane people in the Democratic Party. And for those of you who didn't watch the debates, I mean, seriously, on the first night, there was a candidate on the stage who came out for abortions for transgenders.
Right.
And no one on the stage, none of the moderators so much as ask a follow-up question. Certainly no one laughed or asked him what on earth he was talking about. Asked for a quick biology lesson on how a man without a uterus, even if he was born a woman, can't get pregnant.
And you've made it pretty clear, I think it's fair to say, and we've recently talked, you seem to be saying pretty consistently almost all other issues are moot or secondary if the border's not locked down. Is that a fair assessment of where you are today?
Yes, and just to explain that in one or two sentences, I mean, we've all seen Beto recently.
Yeah.
He nearly beat Ted Cruz, an incumbent, maybe a little annoying, but a very smart Republican incumbent senator. That election, didn't that have to be counted until like 3 a.m? Ditto in Florida. You lose either of those states, and it's lights out for America. AOC is the next president. One of those lunatics on the stage in the past 2 days will be president. We will not have a majority in another 10 years or so, once that happens, in the House or the Senate. No matter what your great plans are, I mean, even the Supreme Court, which I think most conservatives, myself included, consider, and all the courts, about as important as it gets, Democrats are saying, I mean, once they have a majority, we'll just pack the court. Instead of having 9 members, they can flip the court overnight. Do you think AOC cares about the Constitution? Do you think anyone on those stages the last 2 nights cares about the Constitution? That's why whatever you care about, abortion, security, terrorism, interest rates, the G20, whatever you care about, it's over if Trump doesn't keep his promises. And, oh, my gosh, it's been 3 years and counting. I mean, if you run – I'm sorry, I told you it would be 2 sentences. Only one more sentence.
Sure.
If you run the exact same election as 2016, it's still Hillary. She's still someone we've hated for 30 years. She still calls most Americans deplorables. You have Trump and the huge rallies and build the wall and the media being snotty and so on and so forth. And the only difference is not one new person comes into the country, not one person leaves the country. Just by the process of older Americans, i.e. Republicans, dying, and every day more and more immigrants turning 18 and getting their voter's registration card. Immigrants, of course, I mean, historically, they always have, and it's even more so now, vote overwhelmingly for the Democrats. Trump would lose the election.
So I'm going to ask this. I've asked you this before in our talk on my website at chrisstigall.com. I do hope people will go listen to that podcast because I think they're going to love the interview with you. We talk about a ton of stuff besides this, but this we drill down on. I asked you then, but I'm going to ask again because this is the thing that people keep asking me after our conversations. They say, Ann isn't being reasonable or fair to Trump. He's doing everything he can. I don't know what you expect him to do. People keep asking me, have her explain to us what she'd have him physically do. And so I'm doing
that. As I wrote at the time, you can go back and read the column saying, predicting this was going to be the no new taxes pledge. When he refused to hire Chris Kobach as Homeland Security, he could have done it all. Trump could keep golfing. He doesn't have to, he's obviously lazy. He can still sit on the bed, tweet, and eat cheeseburgers. Just put it in the hands of Chris Kobach. No, he puts Department of Homeland Security in the hands of a series of Koch brothers shills, Bush types, other random assorted imbeciles who have managed to engineer the worst immigration crisis in the nation's history. What else could he do? He could build the wall. He's the commander-in-chief. Oh, but the courts, they'll sue. Okay, and he'll take it to the Supreme Court and probably win, as he did on the Muslim ban. There's surely lots of that wall that can just be built. He could tomorrow, tonight, from G20, he could do the same thing he did with the Muslim ban. This is a national crisis. It's not only a crisis for us, it's a crisis for the illegal immigrants. Thousands of them die every year. It's even worse now. So if you really care, if you have any humanitarian concerns about people throwing their kids in lakes when nobody can swim and everybody drowning, well, you want to turn off the magnet. The same way he said we can no longer accept immigrants from these whatever number of countries it is, I forget, less than a dozen, I believe, because they were on Obama's terrorist watch list. He can do that right now, saying, I'm sorry, we're not taking anyone from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and of course Mexico. It's closed. That was upheld by the Supreme Court last June.
Yeah, and so in terms of DACA, what they're hearing now or what they've agreed to hear, are you optimistic about that? Do you like where that could be headed?
Well, how about, what are these people thinking? I don't understand what the question is. What could he do? What is DACA? It was an unconstitutional executive order issued by Obama after Obama spent 4 years longer telling illegal immigrants, I won't call them Hispanics because Hispanics don't seem to be wild about the illegal immigrants themselves, competing with them, but the illegal immigrant grievance lobby, Obama used to tell them, I can't do this. I can't just amnesty people. That's something that has to be done by Congress. The constitutional law professor, he was right. Congress couldn't pass it. And so he says, oh, well, I'll just violate the Constitution and say, ha, we're giving you amnesty, we're giving you work permits. Trump promised over and over and over again on the campaign trail his first act in office would be to undo Obama's executive order and that he'd pass an executive order or sign an executive order ending anchor babies. Where's that? Does he have writer's cramp? I mean, this is nonsense that he's doing everything that he can. He's not doing anything except tweeting.
I have heard that you are now making this a regular stop on Fridays with our friend Larry. Is that true?
Why, yes, I am.
Excellent. So by next week, people will have had plenty of time to write copious amounts of tweets and emails sent your way about this conversation, I'm sure.
Excellent.
All right. Hey, Ann, it is so good to talk to you. Have a great weekend, okay?
Good to talk to you, Chris.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Ann. That's our friend Ann Coulter. She's got a brand new column, The Swamp in Action. Ann Coulter.